At UFC Fight Night, Kansas City, Ian Garry stepped up on short notice to take on one of the most terrifying prospects in the welterweight division, Carlos Prates. Let's get into the breakdown of how Ian Garry systematically broke apart Carlos Prates. First off, let's establish Carlos Prates' strengths, weaknesses, and his fight style.
They still selling dope, that's those Miami boys. Killers everywhere, it ain't no place to run. Forgive me for my wrongs, I have just begun. Ain't no mercy, ain't no...
Carlos Prates is more of a traditional Muay Thai fighter. He obviously comes from a Muay Thai kickboxing background, but he has a very Muay Thai Bangkok style of fighting. And he typically switches between two stances, a kickboxing stance where he's a little more even weight on both feet, and a Muay Thai stance. The Muay Thai stance, obviously very light lead leg, heavy weight on that back foot, ready to throw, check leg kicks. Also, Carlos Prates is very left side heavy. He's a southpaw, so those are his most powerful weapons, and he doesn't throw heavily in combination. He's more of a single shot to 2 or 3 shots at a time. He's not going to be putting together a 5-piece combination against the fence. Also, because of his Muay Thai style, Carlos Prates doesn't do great moving laterally or moving backwards. Muay Thai typically happens in a back and forth, you go, I go scenario. So what Prates typically likes to do is he'll trade, he'll defend, and he'll trade. And he'll come out on the winning end of those exchanges because he has such amazing physical advantages for the welterweight division. He's probably about 6'2", 78-inch reach, and devastating one-shot knockout power. Ian Garry also typically before this fight has that sort of Muay Thai style where he likes to hang out at distance, hang out right in kickboxing, boxing range, and he likes to throw and then let you throw and then throw back because he also, about 6'2", not as pronounced in reach, about 74 inches of reach, and not as much power, but Garry likes to throw in combination. So he'll throw, slip, add on more combinations, and he'll build up those combinations, eventually getting to the finish or just beating you up to a decision. In this fight, however, Ian Garry showed new layers to his game that we hadn't really seen before. He was very much on his bike, and he, surprisingly enough, beat Prates in the open stance matchup. Open stance matchup is when one person is southpaw, one person is orthodox. Let's talk about how he did that. So immediately to start off the fight, the first thing that I noticed was Carlos Prates was very much in a heavy Muay Thai stance. And what that said to me was he didn't really respect Ian Garry's grappling. And to be fair, he didn't really need to. Ian Garry landed a couple of takedowns, but they weren't controlling takedowns. He never took Prates' back. He never held Prates flat. He just sort of had him up against the fence. And it wasn't a position that Prates necessarily needed to be scared of, but what Ian Garry was doing with those takedowns was breaking up the rhythm of Carlos Prates. And Merab actually does this a lot too. These guys, they'll shoot non-committal takedowns. So they'll shoot, they'll grab the leg. If there's no resistance and they can just get the takedown, they'll take it. But more, it's just to break up the rhythm. That's going to work really well against a Muay Thai fighter because, as I mentioned earlier, Muay Thai fighters are bop, bop, bop. Defense, 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 bop, 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 back and forth. They like that. So what Garry was doing is he would throw, and then he would shoot in on a takedown. And so Prates never got that rhythm of, okay, he's throwing, now it's my time to go. At least not in the first 3.5 rounds. Another thing that Garry was doing was he was using his, at range, he was using his right leg kicks very well. Body kicks, high kicks, he even mixed in a couple leg kicks. But what that was doing was that was keeping Prates' left side occupied. So Prates he couldn't just throw that right or that left hand, indiscriminately. He had to be aware when he was at range where he most likes to land that left hand of that high kick coming back his way. Another thing that Ian Garry was doing beautifully through the first 3.5 rounds of the fight was he was not allowing himself to get backed up square to the fence. Prates likes to get you going backwards. He likes to get you on the fence. And once you can't run away anymore, he likes to overload you with 1, 2, 3 shots. And eventually one of them's going to find your chin, find your liver, and it's going to put you down. We saw that in the Radke fight. We saw that in almost all of his fights except for the Trevin Giles fight where he got the knockout right in the open. Garry, when he would get backed up to the fence, though, did a great job, and this is where I say he beat Prates in the open stance matchup. He would go, instead of stepping out and away, trying to evade Prates, because that could set up right hook, straight left for Prates, he would throw jabs and teeps right up the middle. And what this was doing was, on all of his jabs, he wasn't landing tappy jabs. He was stepping through with his jab, so Carlos Prates had to respect him. It wasn't a jab that Prates could just eat and throw the left hand over the top. If Prates was going to eat that jab, it was going to hurt. It was going to disrupt his accuracy on that shot. So those jabs and those just linear attacks when Ian Garry was up against the fence were what separated him in this fight from Carlos Prates. Now, what Carlos Prates needs to do in the future is he just needs to develop a really good counter game, because Ian Garry was open for counters off of some of those missed jabs, but Prates wasn't capitalizing on it. So it's a simple fix, and I do think Prates will be able to improve from this fight and will become a top contender at some point in his career. Another thing that Garry was doing with that with that foot battle from Southpaw Orthodox was he would go inside with the jab, and it didn't even matter if it landed because Prates was respecting it. He would immediately step outside. And what he would do when he would step outside was he wouldn't just throw his right hand. He would throw right hand, uppercut, left hook. And that's what got Prates hurt a couple of times in the fight. Prates in the end of round 4 and into round 5, we saw scary Carlos Prates. And Ian Garry barely hung on. That's what the famous clip or screenshot online is of Garry crawling on the ground. It's weird. Garry lost to Shavkat and his stock went up. And then all of his wins, it seems like his stock has gone down. The Jeff Neal fight, now the Prates fight. It's like we're getting all these memes out of Ian Garry. But if he keeps winning, I mean, there's not much you can do about it. But when Prates really locked in, Garry started to fatigue. Those takedown entries weren't coming as easy. Prates was landing big shots. And again, it was still single shots. If Prates would have really unloaded a 4 or 5 piece combination, I think he might have had a chance to get Garry out of there. But Garry did a great job of staying alive. He did a great job of surviving. He even landed some big shots back. And to all the people calling this fight a boring fight, like MMA, like, I get it. I don't like Ian Garry the person, but Ian Garry the fighter is pretty sick, and he put on a sick performance. He hurt Prates on multiple occasions. He managed distance very well and took out the scariest knockout artist in the welterweight division.